Good morning, everyone. Sorry, it's great to be with you this morning and to just once again share our devotion time on this Friday morning. It's been a cold week, hasn't it? And we've had a bit of a wintry blast from the east this last few days. But I trust that we're all staying safe and we're all well. I love the Psalms. I think most Christians get a lot of comfort, a lot of strength, a lot of things out of the Psalms. And of course, there are some psalms that are probably a little better known than others. And one of those psalms, of course, is Psalm 23, the famous psalm that is called The Lord is my shepherd. Probably the most famous psalm there is. And I want to focus in a moment on one phrase from that psalm. But before I do, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been to a banquet? Or you've been to a place where tables are laden with all the most beautiful foods that you can imagine. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, Michelle and I went to Croatia on holiday, and we were privileged enough to stay in a really, really lovely hotel. And our favourite meal of the day whenever we're on holiday is breakfast. It's that get up, when we want. It's that kind of lazy start to the day and you go down to have breakfast. And in this particular hotel in Croatia, just outside Dubrovnik, there were all the foods that you can imagine. Tables and tables laden with beautiful food. There was platters of meats and cheeses and fruits and all the Mediterranean type food that you can imagine. And then there was cooked food, there was cold food, there was gorgeous cakes. It was just, and every time we walked in there seemed to be different foods every day, and we would take our time and we would spend maybe an hour and a half just having breakfast together. And it was just like the hotel was saying to us, come to the table, just enjoy the luxurious foods that are here for you. Maybe you've been to a wedding. And you've been to a wedding banquet, and it's one of those luxury buffet style type banquets, and you go to the table and again you just choose from some fantastic plates of food, and you don't know where to start because there's so much of it, and it's just like, wow. Or maybe you've been around a friend, or you've gone to dinner around somebody's, and they've got dinner ready for you, and they've put on their table some lovely dishes, and they say, come on in, it's time to get up the table, come to the table and help yourself to all that is on offer at this table. And David, in Psalm 23, he writes some great lines. We probably know them quite well, but one of the lines that he writes in Psalm 23 is this, verse 5, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. David is referring to the Lord when he says, you prepare a table for me. And he says, God prepares a table, not just in the good times, not just when it's the wow moments, but you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. I wonder what David is saying there. This is what I think he's saying. I think he's saying this, that even when my enemies are looking on, God, even when my enemies are wanting to capture me and harm me, God still prepares a table for me to come to and feast. Here's a question, right? What enemies are looking on into your life right now? Maybe it's the enemy of fear. Maybe it's the enemy of sadness. Maybe the enemy of rejection. Maybe you don't have any self-esteem. Maybe it's the enemy of laziness even. But there's lots of enemies that can come and want to steal from us today. They're almost like, in the presence of my enemies, they're looking on, thinking, how can we harm, how can we take something from us today? What is your enemy that you think is looking on into your life today, getting ready to pounce, getting ready to take something from your life? Maybe it's a past experience that you've never let go, and that enemy still looks on into your life today, and he wants to rob, harm, steal, and take from you. And David writes these amazing words. He says, even in the presence of my enemies, you prepare a table for me. This is what I think God wants us to know this morning in this devotion. Come to the table. You know, He is the one that is saying to us, listen, I have prepared for you a banquet. I have prepared for you a table. And today I want you to come to the table and enjoy anything and everything that's here for you today. You know, on his table today is peace. On his table today is healing. On his table today is restoration. On his table today is a sense of well-being. His table has acceptance there for you today. His table has a new measure of faith for you today. His table has confidence on that table today. His table has wholeness and freedom. They are the things that God puts on the table for you. And he says to us, come on, come to the table. Even in the presence of your enemies, even in the onlooking eyes of the enemy that are looking on at you right now to seek to bring you down, to hurt you, to harm you, to cause you to think all the wrong things. Even in the presence of our enemies, he prepares a table for us. So whatever your enemy is today, come to the table and take from the table the banquet that God has laid out before you, and take from him and take what you need. It's an invitation to you, all right? It's not like, you know, isn't it maybe one of the worst things that you could do for a host is when they say, come to the table, help yourself to food, and you just stay sitting there and you kind of decide, you know, I don't want anything. But God doesn't want us to be like that. He doesn't want us to sit away from the table, but to come to the table. And I want to finish with a verse from the New Testament this morning. In 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 3 says this, you have provided for me all things pertaining to both life and godliness, all things both for body and soul, for time and eternity. Let me read 1 Peter 1 verse 3 again. You have provided me all things pertaining both to life and godliness, all things both for body and soul, for time and eternity. God this morning has provided all things. He's provided that banquet, even in the presence of our enemies. Why don't we today come to the table and eat all that God has for us today? Have a great day. Bless you. And we'll see you on Sunday online. Take care. God bless.